So there's an old expression that until I looked it up for this show, I always thought was an ancient Greek expression. It's usually, they usually ascribe it to Euripides, I think, one of the great Greek playwrights. In fact, one of the great American poets was the first person to put it in the way that I'm going to say it, which is, whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. Whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. And you see this is in the Bible too, when Saul, the king, is rejected by God. God doesn't just depose him, he makes him insane. And that's the first thing he does. And there's a lot of this in the Greeks, in the ancient Greeks. They do have things like evil appears as good to the minds of those who the gods lead to destruction. In other words, God doesn't have to hit you with a lightning bolt. He just takes your own mind and turns it against you. And I would never compare Donald Trump to the Greek gods, but I have to say I have never in my life seen a man who causes his enemies almost by magic to destroy themselves. I mean, he doesn't do anything to them. They do it to themselves. I mean, it is just amazing. It's like everything, it's almost like this kind of magical, it's got to be instinctive, right? I don't think he sits on like Mount Oval Office, with this thunderclouds over him, plotting this out and figuring out how to do it. And as I keep saying, I don't think he's playing three-dimensional chess. I just think he has an instinct for driving people out of their minds. This is one of the best, it's the best 2 weeks, I think, of his presidency, with the tax thing, and now this idea of declaring honestly that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, which is just the simple truth. But it's just, we saw this during the actual primaries. We saw 16 candidates, and remember how he wiped them out. People keep saying, it was the bullying and it was the name calling and all that, but it wasn't true. It was the way they imploded. I remember Marco Rubio making those kind of ugly remarks about Trump's hands, and you think, well, Trump can do it, why can't Rubio? Because it doesn't fit Rubio. It wasn't his personality. We expected to act like a normal politician. But he just lost it. He got so tired. Yeah, see, I myself. Yeah, that's right. That was my tribute to Marco Rubio's drinking the water. But I was just, but it was just they would get so mad and so angry, and everything bounced off him. Nothing stuck to him. It would drive him crazy. Ted Cruz did the same thing. Remember when Ted Cruz went to the convention? First of all, Ted Cruz thought he was going to outsmart. Ted Cruz's thing was his brain. He's brainy, and he was the candidate I want. I'd still love to see Ted Cruz become president. I'm not sure that'll ever happen. I think he's, a really good guy policy-wise. But he just thought he was going to outsmart and outplay Trump by going along with him, calling him my good friend Donald and sticking with him and all this stuff. And by the time he turned on him, it was just too late. And then he went to that, convention, and he made that speech about follow your conscience. And I came on the show, and I said that was a mistake. It was a moral error, and it was a political error. And people yelled at me for 3 weeks. I got letters for 3 weeks about what a fool I was. Cruz was doing the right thing, but he didn't. He blew himself up, and now he's playing the game. He's playing along with Trump because he sees that he can get policy stuff done, which is what he's about, and good for him. And I appreciate that. And Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton. That line about deplorables, that's not what sunk her ultimately, but it certainly stuck. And that it was that anger that he makes people do things that they don't want to do. I'm watching some of these Republicans who are opposing them. And there's this imaginary world of the mainstream media where they're all heroes and they're right, but they're really running for their lives. Bob Corker and Jeff Flake, they're kind of saying, we're going to fight them. Goodbye. It's like, all right, we're going to stand and fight. I'm gone. You see this kind of trail of smoke. Yesterday, just talk about trolling someone. Trump was having a lunch, and he had Jeff Flake, who hates him, right, sitting right next to him. And Flake wrote a check to Doug Jones in Alabama. Do we have a picture of the other? Here it is. $100 check to the Democrat candidate in Alabama with this virtue signaling subject line at the bottom. It says country over party, which I'm sorry. It's one thing to say, I can't vote for Roy Moore. He's just a bad guy. If you're not from Alabama, you can do what I do, which is thank God Almighty I don't have to make that choice, that I'm not morally involved in this choice. But to actually contribute to the other party is just crazy. Bill Kristol has been tweeting things like, suddenly my inner feminist and my inner socialist is awake. You think like, Yeah, Bill, could you just move to the back of the room, take your inner feminist and your inner socialist with you? I mean, all these people are just blowing themselves up. So yesterday, Trump has a lunch, and he sits Flake next to him and tells people that the Republican Party is more unified than ever. And if you're watching, you can just watch Flake's face as if he just bit on a lemon. Look at this.
There's a great spirit in the Republican Party like I've never seen before, like a lot of people have said they've never seen before. They've never seen anything like this, the unity. So I think a lot of very good things are going to happen. It's going to happen very fast. I want to thank you all for being here, and let's have a great lunch, and let's talk about trade, and let's make great trade deals instead of the horrible trade deals that we all got stuck with.
In fact, if you look at it, if you just see Flake, he just looks like, why am I sitting here? Why, it reminded me of that picture of Ted Cruz when he had to make phone calls for Trump, and he just looked like he had been condemned to hell. Remember Chris Christie, when he joined Trump, he would stand in the back of Trump just looking like, I am died and I've gone to hell now. I mean, he really has a power that is, it's quite amazing to look at. It's just an amazing thing to see. And I've started to ask myself, what is it? What drives people crazy? Because there's one person, I'll get to this in a little while, there's one person who hasn't quite been driven crazy by him, who seems immune. Some of the people, Mitch McConnell is one of them. Mitch McConnell figured out, stop fighting with him, do your job. That's why the tax thing got passed. He just said, you know what? He had to. He had to have gone to all those people who hate Trump and say, look, are we the senators? Are we going to do Senate stuff or not? Are we going to sit around banging our head against this guy? And they fell in line. That was a smart thing to do. That is an old hand, old professional thing to do. But even this thing with Roy Moore, think about this for a minute. With Roy Moore, Trump now has supported him, given him a kind of a bland, endorsement, saying, I need his vote. I need his vote. And the RNC has shown up, and all the anti-Trumpers, especially on the right, they're clutching their pearls and saying this is the end of our moral nation, blah, 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 blah. But meanwhile, because the left, the Democrats, up till now, have been the party of it's okay to molest people sexually because they've been the party of Bill Clinton, right? Now, in order to get at Trump, in order to have some kind of moral position from which to attack Trump, they have to clean house. It's like Trump has this ability to turn people on themselves. So John Conyers just said he's resigning. That doesn't, as far as I'm concerned, do we have a cut of him? Do we have a cut? Yeah, let's play Conyers resigning like he's a king. He's going to appoint his son to replace him.
Do you think that these allegations at all will impact that legacy?
Oh, absolutely not. My legacy can't be compromised or diminished in any way by what we're going through now. This too shall pass. And I want you to know that my legacy will continue through my children. I have a great family here, and especially in my oldest boy, John Conyers III, who incidentally I endorsed to replace me in my seat in Congress.
But this doesn't give them any, as far as I'm concerned, any moral credit. The guy's 80 years old, 80 plus years old. He's appointing his son to replace him in Michigan, where we have the wonderful Democrat achievement of Detroit, of taking a vibrant living city and sucking every ounce of life and business out of it. That's like, thank you, Democrats. So this doesn't give them any cred. And now they've got all these other, so Chris Matthews, for instance, is trying to play this Roy Moore thing. He's trying to roll this up. This is a talking point, because I've heard a couple of other people say this. He makes this little joke on hardball.
Ask Republicans today, would you want to be one of them, one of the grand old pedophiles, the GOP? Do you want to be part of that? Yeah. You want to be part of that? Because every cheap shot Democrat in the country, and there are a few of them out there, will use it in every campaign. You're a number to, you're one of the Crips and the Bloods, basically. You're one of them.
But, we all remember what it was like when Ted Kennedy died. Ted Kennedy, a guy who left a woman to drown, and Andrea Mitchell on CNN was like, I think she was on CNN then. I can't remember. Andrea Mitchell was like it was raining. The heavens are weeping for Ted Kennedy, And one guy in the Boston Globe magazine wrote, if Mary Jo Kopechne, the woman he left to die in her car while he arranged his alibi, if Mary Jo Kopechne were alive today, she would support Ted Kennedy. It's like, I thought, yeah, if Mary Jo Kopechne were alive today, she'd have a reason to support Ted Kennedy, but she doesn't because she's dead because he left her there. So now they've got Al Franken on their hands, right? So 6 female Democratic senators have called on Al Franken to resign now. I simply do not know how he survives that. Tomorrow, he says he's going to make an announcement. Maybe he's going to try and tough it out. But when you've got the senators coming forward, and look, I don't want to impugn their motives. Maybe they just think enough is enough because now there was a 7th woman who says he tried to forcibly kiss her and all this stuff. But I don't want to impugn their motives, but they have to do this. They have to do this or they have simply no moral standing. So Trump, the very fact that, remember all the women with the pink hats, protesting that Donald Trump said this stuff on the Hollywood Access tape, all the kind of grotesque things he said about what women will let you do if you're a celebrity, which we now know are true since these women didn't come forward for 10 years. But still, it did indicate there were plenty of complaints against Trump that he did untoward things just like Al Franken. But instead of it destroying him, it's destroying all the people around him because in order to get at him, they have to throw these people overboard. So it's like instead of, I don't know what's going to happen with Roy Moore. I said from the beginning, the best outcome for me would be if he got elected and then thrown out of the Senate. But this could end with the Democrats losing a vote in the Senate, which would just be, it's insane the way this happens. It's almost magical. Then there's the FBI. And things are just getting absolutely worse with the FBI. There's now, what is Judicial Watch? These are the guys who keep filing FOIA claims to get the documents, pry the documents out of the Justice Department and the FBI that they don't want to give. So now they say that that one of the senior prosecutors assigned to special counsel Robert Mueller is biased against President Trump. If you remember back at the very beginning when Trump put out that travel ban, which now the Supreme Court says he can put forward until they hear the case. The travel ban has gone forward, and it's not a Muslim ban. It includes non-Muslim countries, and it doesn't include some Muslim countries. But remember, the then acting Attorney General Sally Yates said she ordered her staff not to defend the ban. So the Justice Department was saying we're not going to support the President of the United States executive order, which was insane. And Andrew Weissman, one of Mueller's deputies, sent her an email apparently saying, "I'm so proud and in awe. Thank you so much. All my deepest respects." So it's like, the FBI, even the FBI goes after him and they explode. Here is Newt Gingrich just noticing the phenomenon.
I don't think I fully appreciated until this evening how really important it was for Donald Trump to win. If Hillary Clinton had won, none of this would have surfaced. They just would have kept covering up all the corruption, and they would have just kept taking care of themselves. So the very fact that you had this disruptive figure in the White House, all of us are learning some pretty horrifying things about how sick the system is, how sick the entire process is, in ways I would have thought were impossible. I have the greatest respect for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and it is astonishing to me that you could have people at the top who are this corrupt, this profoundly dishonest.
So here's this guy who is supposed to be Trump, who's supposed to be the authoritarian. He's supposed to be corrupt. He's under investigation for this Russia thing, which is a nonsense, if you ask me. And yet, who is getting burned? And if you watch the mainstream media, they're not covering it, so they don't see it, but it's still happening. It's happening whether they see it or not. And we'll discuss in a couple of minutes why Trump has this weird power, this bizarre power, because it's not strategic, it is instinctive, but it also has to do with the system itself. But I think there are two things. One is Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care about the status quo, and everybody, right and left, is invested in the status quo. They're invested in the fight taking place the way the fight takes place. They're invested in the sides being drawn the way the sides are drawn. Everybody is. That's their profession. Whether it's, the commentators on the radio, whether it's the New York Times, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, they are all invested in the status quo, and he doesn't care about it. And it drives them nuts. It makes them nuts. And so they end up defending a status quo, which when you think about it, hasn't been going that well. When you look at North Korea building its weapons, not going so well. When you look at the endless death and murder in the Middle East that is always putting Israel on the defensive, not going so well. And that is something that he is like a revolutionary, and it's making them crazy. And most importantly, he is destroying the way we discuss things. And the reason that makes the left so mad is because they have controlled the way that we discuss things all this time. They've just decided what words are racist, what attitudes are racist. They've decided that whether an individual is racist matters. I'm not sure it does. They've decided what's sexist. They've decided all of these things. And now, because Trump will not fall down when they say these things to him. He is changing the status quo. And I think so many people are invested in the way things are that I just think it drives them nuts. Plus, he's a troll. He knows exactly instinctively what will make them crazy.